Let me describe a man, and you tell me if you've dated him. He's charming at first, attentive, says things that make you feel like he actually sees you. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, he starts pulling away. Not enough to give you a reason to leave, just enough to make you feel like you're losing your mind. Now let me ask you something harder. How many times has this happened? Not once, not twice, but over and over, with different men who somehow all end up feeling like the same person. Most people would tell you it's bad luck, bad taste. Maybe you're too nice, or you give too much. And I know you've heard all of that before, probably from well-meaning friends who watched you fall apart over someone who barely gave you the bare minimum. But here's what nobody's telling you. This isn't random. It isn't bad luck. And it definitely isn't because something's wrong with your judgment. There is a specific psychological mechanism that explains why emotionally unavailable men keep showing up in your life. And more importantly, why they feel so irresistible when they do. It's not about them. It's about what your nervous system learned to recognize as love before you were old enough to know the difference. And once you understand this mechanism, you will never look at your relationship history the same way again. Let's start with what it actually looks like from the inside. Because from the outside, people might think you just have a type, but living it feels nothing like a preference. It feels like a trap you keep walking into with your eyes wide open. Emma could map it out by now if she wanted to. She's done it enough times. It always starts the same way. A rush of connection that feels different from anything before. The conversations that go until 2 a.m. The way he looks at her like she's the only person in the room. And every single time she thinks, finally, this one gets it. This one's different. But he's never different. Not really. The pattern has 3 phases, and they play out with almost mechanical precision. Phase 1, pursuit. He's present, engaged, almost overwhelming in his attention. Phase 2, the slow fade. The texts get shorter, the plans get vaguer. He's still there, technically, but something shifted, and she can feel it in her bones. Phase 3, she takes over the emotional labor. She starts initiating everything. She starts managing his mood, reading between his lines, adjusting herself to keep the connection alive. And here's the part that haunts her. She doesn't just tolerate the fade. Something in her activates when it happens. She gets more invested, not less, more focused, more determined to close the gap, as if his distance flipped a switch inside her that turned wanting into needing. And that switch? That's not a flaw in her character. That's the first clue about what's really going on. To understand why Emma's nervous system responds to distance the way it does, we have to go back. Not to her last relationship, not even to her first one. We have to go back to the very first bond she ever formed, the one she doesn't remember choosing. Attachment theory, and this is one of the most researched frameworks in developmental psychology, tells us that the way our primary caregivers responded to our needs as infants creates a kind of emotional blueprint, a template for what love is supposed to feel like. When a child receives consistent, reliable care, when she cries and someone comes, when she reaches and someone's there, her nervous system learns that connection is safe, that proximity equals comfort. That love is something you can count on. But when that care is inconsistent, when affection comes and goes without any logic, the child can decode. When the same parent who holds her close 1 hour is emotionally absent the next, something very different gets wired in. The child's nervous system doesn't learn that love is safe. It learns that love is uncertain. And this is the crucial part. It learns that the way to survive that uncertainty is through vigilance, through effort, through constantly monitoring the emotional temperature of the person she depends on and adjusting herself accordingly. Emma didn't grow up in a dramatic household. Nobody would look at her childhood and call it traumatic. Her mother loved her, but her mother's warmth was unpredictable. Some days it was there in full, warm, present, generous. Other days, it was behind a wall that Emma couldn't see but could absolutely feel. And little Emma didn't understand mood disorders, or stress, or the things adults carry that have nothing to do with their children. All she understood was, sometimes love is here, and sometimes it disappears, and I don't know why. So she learned to watch, to read the room before she walked into it, to become exquisitely tuned to the emotional frequency of the people she loved, because catching the shift early was the only way to brace for the withdrawal. That skill, that hyper-awareness, kept her safe as a child. But it's the exact thing that's destroying her relationships as an adult. Here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this is the part where most people expect to hear, so just choose differently. As if knowing the pattern is the same as being free of it. It's not, and there's a neurological reason why. Your nervous system doesn't evaluate partners based on pros and cons. It doesn't sit there and say, well, he has a stable job, communicates clearly, and shows up when he says he will. He must be a good match. That's your conscious brain talking. Your nervous system is running a completely different program. What it does, and research on attachment activation supports this, is scan for familiarity. It's looking for emotional signatures it recognizes, and if what you grew up with was warmth that appeared and disappeared without warning, then your nervous system will register a consistent, emotionally present partner as foreign, unfamiliar, flat, and a man who runs hot and cold, who gives you just enough to keep hoping but never enough to feel secure. Your nervous system lights up like a Christmas tree, not because he's right for you, but because he feels like home. Emma experienced this firsthand. She went on a date with a guy, we'll call him Marcus, who was kind, direct, and entirely uncomplicated. He texted when he said he would. He made plans and followed through. He told her he liked her on the second date without any games or ambiguity, and she felt nothing. She told her friend, he's great on paper, but there's no spark. And she genuinely believed that. She believed the absence of anxiety meant the absence of attraction, because in her experience, the two had never existed apart. 2 weeks later, she matched with someone else. Within days, she was dissecting his texts with her friends, losing sleep over a 3-hour reply gap, and feeling more alive than she had in months. She called it chemistry. Her nervous system called it recognition. And that distinction between what feels like chemistry and what is compatibility is the single most important thing a person with anxious attachment can learn to see. But let's go one layer deeper. Because it's not just emotional familiarity driving this. There's actual neurochemistry involved, and it explains why breaking this pattern feels less like a decision and more like quitting a substance. When Emma is with someone who's emotionally consistent, someone like Marcus, her brain releases a steady, low-level stream of oxytocin. It's pleasant, it's calming, it's the neurochemical signature of safety. But for a nervous system wired on inconsistency, that steady stream doesn't register as exciting. It registers as nothing happening. Now, when she's with someone who's intermittently available, present one day, distant the next, affectionate after a fight, but withdrawn during normal life, something very different happens in her brain. Each time he re-engages after a withdrawal, her system gets a spike of dopamine, not the gentle, sustained kind, the sharp, unpredictable kind, the same pattern that makes slot machines addictive. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it is the most powerful conditioning schedule in behavioral psychology. The reward that comes unpredictably creates a stronger attachment than the reward that comes every time. Because the brain doesn't just enjoy the dopamine hit, it starts anticipating it, craving it, organizing its entire emotional architecture around the question, will he come back this time? And on top of the dopamine, there's cortisol, stress hormone, flooding her system every time he pulls away, every time a text goes unanswered, every time she lies awake at 3 a.m, wondering what she did wrong. And here's the twist that makes this so insidious. The combination of high cortisol followed by a dopamine spike when he re-engages creates an emotional cocktail that the brain interprets as passion. that heart racing, can't eat, can't sleep obsessive feeling that Emma calls being in love? Chemically, it's almost indistinguishable from anxiety. And her nervous system can't tell the difference because it was never taught that there is one. So when people say, just walk away, they're asking her to override not just an emotional pattern, but a biochemical one that her brain has been rehearsing since before she could speak. That's not a matter of willpower. That's a rewiring job. So let's lay it out plainly, because once you see the full picture, you can't unsee it. You grew up with love that was real, but inconsistent. Your nervous system adapted by becoming hypervigilant, always scanning, always monitoring, always trying to predict when connection would appear and when it would vanish. That vigilance became your emotional default. It became what love felt like to you. Then you entered adult relationships, and your nervous system went looking for what it knew. It found men who replicated that same pattern: present, then absent, warm, then cold, close, then unreachable. And every time, your brain said, this is the one. I recognize this feeling. And it flooded you with chemistry so powerful that the calm, consistent guys didn't stand a chance. You didn't choose this. You were wired for it. Not because you're broken or codependent or addicted to drama, but because your nervous system did exactly what it was designed to do. It sought out the familiar. It chose recognition over safety. And it called that recognition love. That's the mechanism, not bad luck, not poor judgment. Not some deficiency in your ability to love or be loved, a survival adaptation that outlived the environment it was built for. And here's the thing about adaptations. They can be updated, not overnight, not easily. But they can be changed once you see what you're actually dealing with. And this is what I really want you to take away from this. The fact that you keep attracting emotionally unavailable men is not evidence that you're unworthy of real love. It's evidence that your nervous system is still running a very old program, one that was written during a time when you had no choice, no language, and no power to do anything but adapt. But you're not that child anymore. And the pattern that protected you then is the pattern that's keeping you stuck now. Emma is starting to see this. She's not there yet, not fully. She still feels the pull when a man goes quiet. She still has to fight the urge to check her phone 40 times in an hour. But something shifted the moment she understood why she felt that pull. Because now, when her chest tightens and her mind starts spiraling, she can pause and ask herself a question she never could before. Am I feeling love right now? Or am I feeling recognition? That question doesn't fix everything, but it interrupts the autopilot. It creates a tiny gap between the feeling and the reaction. And in that gap, that one breath of awareness, is where the entire pattern starts to lose its grip. You don't need to swear off love. You don't need to become someone who doesn't feel deeply. You just need to learn the difference between what your nervous system recognizes and what you actually deserve. And those two things, I promise you, are not the same.